Hi, welcome. This video will show you how to assign polygon attributes from one feature into another. In this case, we're going to take these public lands, which are in brown, and we are going to assign them to a minor watershed. So we have our public lands layer shown. We're going to go to Quick Layers under Hydrography, add the DNR watershed suite, and obviously there's various scales of watershed that you can pick from. In this case, we are just going to look at the minor watersheds. Maybe change the color on those to make them stand out a little bit better. So right now, we have a lot of attributes for these public lands, but the attribute that we don't have is which minor watershed they are located in. So in order to do that, we need to basically slam these layers on top of each other, and there's a few different ways to do it. I prefer to use the union geoprocessing tool. And we'll just call it union demo. So we add both layers to our union. Okay, so that completed, and what it did is it just basically blended everything together into one layer. It kept both sets of attributes, so you'll have the attributes from the parcels as well as all the minor watershed information. In this case, the field that we really wanted was this minor watershed number, also minor 5 is how it's called. But as you can see, we still have some work to do. We have some watershed features that are just taking up empty space, and one of the ways you can easily identify those is by this fid underscore field. For example, this if we click on a parcel, this fid column here, public lands from parcels, that was our public lands field, has a value. But if we click this empty space, it's going to be -1. This fid public lands, no lakes. So what we're going to do is we're going to open the attribute table, and we're going to do a select by attribute and find that field, fid no lakes, and the query string is going to be where that field is greater than -1. So in other words, wherever there's a value in that public lands field. So we want to save the public lands, and as you can see, it highlights our original public lands layer. You could do the query the opposite way either way. So you can just switch the selection now, and this will grab those features that are not public lands, that were just the watershed features that got added in. So what we'll do is edit that, right click, start editing, and we're going to delete all those out. You may have to hit refresh, and you'll see that we're basically back to what we had before with public lands, only now we have the attribute value for the minor watershed in this minor 5. So now what we can do is we can stop edit, save, and then we can just use our summarize tool not statistics, summarize. We're going to summarize by that minor watershed number, which is minor 5. And we're just going to basically get a count or a sum of acres. Now before I do this, one thing I need to point out, whenever you do a union, you want to recalculate the acreage. To do this, you just right click, calculate geometry, and we're going to calculate the acreage. For whatever reason, sometimes when you're doing some of these geoprocessing tools, it won't save, or it won't calculate the acreage accurately, or it'll pull it from a different field, and it's just better to be safe than sorry, and so you want to recalculate your acreage first. Alright, so now it recalculated the acreage. As you can see, that made a big difference. So now each of these polygons has an accurate acreage count. Each of these polygons has a minor watershed number. We're going to summarize by that watershed number to get the sum. Basically take all of the polygons with that same minor watershed number and just assign it a sum. Alright, that's been completed. We'll add it to the map. What that looks like is basically just a table by the minor watershed number and then a count of how many polygons there were, and then a sum total of the acreages. So then what we can do if we want is, let's say we have certain minor watersheds that we want to select out. Let's say we're just interested in these 3 minor watersheds. We need to make a new table, or a new layer basically, because if you use the DNR watershed suite, it won't allow you to add on to that layer. You can't add any fields because it's kind of a pre-programmed thing. So we're going to make our own layer of just these 3 that we want. And what we're going to do then is we're going to join based on this minor 5. That's our common field. And we're going to join to this minor's demo table that we just made using that same minor 5 number. And it's going to add the attributes, which are pretty minimal, just the count and the sum, right onto the end. So now we can add a field for public land, pub land acres. Calculate that field, and we want to calculate the sum acres. So now we have a matching field. So now if we remove this join, it stays with us. And now we know the amount of acreage of public land. So then we can do all kinds of things with our maps. Once we start building these in, whether it's public lands or SFIA or easements, and then you can add different fields together and ultimately arrive at some sort of map. So in this case, we'll do a quantity based color scheme, take our public land acreage divided by the overall acreage, and we only have limited options here to pick from, but let's flip those symbols, and there you have it.